Hello everyone, I'm just getting set up here and making sure my phone's working, and then we'll get started. A pretty big project today, so I'm not sure how long this is all going to take, but I think it'll be fun. And a little bit something I've been starting to do is more scene cards, so it gives me a chance to sit down and play with their inks and stencils. And I will be doing some no lines. It looks like I'm live, so that's good. I'm just going to turn on my volume on my computer for a second to make sure you guys can hear me okay. Yep. Okay, expand my screen so I can see the comments. Oh, and mute again. I'm just going to take it a minute before we get started, just to see if anyone comes on in. If not, that's okay. I can just go through it and you guys can watch the replay later. I have a lot of supplies for this project. Hi, Kim. And I'll go through it in just a moment and show you what I've done so far just to prep for this card. How are you, Kim? Feeling a little better? The other day you weren't feeling so hot. You haven't caught Al's cold, I hope. Oh yeah. I've had a residual cough since I was sick middle of August. It's not going away, and so I'm wondering if it is allergies too. So, because it's just like, this should be gone by now. Otherwise, I'm good. My first week at work went really well. I really like the clinic, and everyone's really nice. It's nice to have a full team of people. A little bit going a little, I want to do everything, and it's like I have to step back. There's enough people not to have to do everything. But monitored anesthetic this week, and next week I think I'll start jumping into surgical prep and dentals and stuff like that. But I just mostly wanted to see how they do their protocols. Yeah, I am loving it. I am working Monday to Friday now, so things might have to be adjusted schedule-wise for myself, but I'll figure it out. It just means more of the weekends have to actually get stuff done and not just sit there being lazy. But yeah, and they're really flexible about things, so like if you need a day off, just let us know. Yeah, but since I'm the newbie, I don't want to be like, I need a day off to go. Although I did leave a little bit early on Friday because they had enough staff and there was no appointments coming in the afternoon, so I thought, you know what, I'm gonna go. No, my last clinic was Tuesday to Friday. I worked 8:15 to, well, tried to leave there by 5, but it was usually like 5:36. So it's about the same amount of hours. It's just like spread out versus the condensed work week I had. So it's nice having Mondays off, but again, I don't need them off. I'm happy to be working. And if I'm only working 9 to 5, then I have some time in the morning. Anyway, I'm going to get started. It's already 9:04. I was going to give it a minute or two. I'm using a whole bunch of supplies. So I did do some prep this morning so that you guys aren't sitting there watching me stamp my images. But our main focus today is on our new stamp set, S'more Fun. I need to make a label on here. I love that we have a camping set because my family really loves lake time. We go every year to the lake, and every year I get rained on in a tent with a pouring rain. Oh yeah, no worries. Thanks, Kim. And so I love the fact that we have a camp set with a bunch of accessories. I love that it adds a lot of accessories in there so that you can make your own scene, or you could just use some of the stamps as like background elements. So I'm going to use S'more Fun. I did pull out the Stupendous, your Stupendous, I don't have the label right on here, stamp set, and it's upside down, because I want to use the cloud. You could use the sun too if you wanted to put a little sun in the cloud. Hi, Carla. How's your week been going? So if you don't have the stamp set, that's okay, but I just like the little clouds that were included. I thought there was more than one cloud in the Your Stupendous set, but there actually is only one. So I did pull out Yeti or Not too, because I wanted a little bit of a smaller cloud as well. Hi, Linda. How's your week been going? Kim said she's just popping out for a moment to share the video, so she might not be there. Oh, good. My week's been good too. Just started my new job, so it's had a week off or a week doing that, and happy to get some crafty time today. I also am pulling out stencils, so I'm not sure which ones I'm going to use yet, but I have a lot of our Kraftin Kimmie projects. So if you don't have what I have, that's okay. You can use die cuts. You can maybe use like other stencils you might have. But since I have all of our lovely scenery stencils, I wanted to pull them out. So this one has the moons and the trees and the cloud, and you can use it for some like mountains and stuff too. So pull that out. I pulled out our circle, sorry, I don't have the names on them. This one has a name, Classic Circles stencil, because I want to use it to make a little sun, I think, behind the mountains. I'm definitely going to be using this one because I'm going to make a little mountain scene. And I like that this one has trees too, if you didn't want to use the trees in the stamp set, and grass. And I think this one is Crafty Scenery 2. And then if you didn't want to pull out stamps of, okay, good, my video stopped being frozen. If you didn't want to pull out the other extra stamp sets, you can always use Chubby Clouds for your background as well. And as you can see, I used black last time, so it's a little stained, but it'll still work. All right. I'm just going to go quickly over what I did this morning to prep for this. Pull out my little tray. So I stamped our little girl, and I didn't actually use mostly melon. I'm pulling my inks too. Wow, only 4 spots left? That's great. Everyone's going to enjoy the retreat, I promise. There's so much goodies in it, and Kim kept just adding more and more and more. I was like, wow, more goodies. So I stamped out our little girl for our scene in Precious Pink. I used that one because it's one of our lightest pinks. And when I do no-line stamping, I try to figure out what our lightest color is going to be on our stamp, and that's the ink I stamp it in. So in cases of humans, usually I'll go with a pink. You could use Party Peach, you could use mostly melons, a little bit darker if you're worried about it being too light. Yeah, Precious Pink I think is probably one of my most used ink pads. And I always stamp 2 just in case I mess up something. I also used it on the fire and the tent, because we're going to be using like reddish orange colors, and it'll color it because again it's such a light ink. For my trees, I already had them stamped out, so they're in Totally Taupe. And I just stamped a whole bunch. It doesn't mean we're going to use them all, but I thought more the better, and then if I don't use them, I'll keep them for another project. And then the little clouds, these little ones are from the Yeti or Not stamp set. And I did them in Salty Sea. Or actually, Blue Bay. I was going to use my Salty Sea, but I re-inked my Salty Sea recently, and I overdid it. So, and then the big clouds from the Your Stupendous set. And again, doesn't mean I'm going to use them all, but I'd rather have extras just in case I mess up, or if I decide later that I want to add extra clouds in the project, I can. But again, if I don't use them, I just keep them in the package with the stamps, and that way I have them already ready to go for another project. All right, so I did say in the supply list I have a lot of ink pulled out. And so you don't have to use the same inks I have. You could stamp all of your images in Totally Taupe. It's such a nice neutral that you could do all of them in Totally Taupe, and that would be fine too. I'm going for a no lines look today because it was requested, and so that's why I pulled out that. I have a lot of ink, so what I'll try and do today is try and keep the ink pad lid in the corner. I have most of mine labeled. So that way it's always in the camera. I'll keep an eye on making sure it is. Would you guys prefer me to start with coloring the images first? I'm going to angle my camera a certain way so hopefully my hands aren't in the way and you can see what I'm doing. Or would you like me to try to build the scene first? I might have to bounce back and forth depending on how the card's going. I have it kind of in my head. I don't actually have it all figured out yet. Usually I do a sample for myself, so I'm not making errors, but it's just paper. So if I make a mistake, it's okay. I think it should all work out. I just might have to stop for a second, pause, and think of whatever is best. Maybe what I'll do is I'll start with the background, and then if somebody does want me to start with the coloring, I don't know how long it's going to take me today, but we do have lots of time. I don't have to worry about another class starting. And if you go, this is taking too long, Patty, I can't stay. I have things to do. I know it's a Sunday. Everyone's got, other plans. That's fine. Just if you do have any questions and you're watching the replay, hi, Carol. Make sure to comment, go hashtag replay and maybe tag me. I'll make sure to answer your questions as best as I can. I just used a die cut this morning just to have a funky little border around my edge on my panel. I am using Bristol Smooth Surface. I'll just show you the paper by Strathmore. I like this one because of my ink blends on it. I'm finding that I can't seem to blend on Nina for things like this. So I use this, and that's why I stamp and cut out all my images instead of just doing it on the panel and masking it off. But that's the paper I use, and it'll take me forever to go through that big thing, so I like the big one. I am going to start by pulling out my stencils, and I'm just going to use ink sponges. Okay, so I probably won't use Chubby Clouds because I have my clouds all pulled or stamped out, but if you don't want to stamp your clouds, you could use that stencil. Definitely going to need this one, and like I said, I want a sun. Okay. So I think what I have to do is figure out my mountains first and then use the mask to mask it off so that when I do the sun's behind my mountains. One other thing I'm going to pull in, which you don't have to do, but I find my stencils don't slip around, is you can either use a magnetic mat, which I think I'm going to today, or a sticky grid of some sort. You could get one of those ones that are used on the stamp platforms, or I actually a lot of the time I'll pull in my gel plate. Probably not the best thing, and I don't use it the way a gel plate's supposed to be used, but I think use the supplies you have. So, okay. So now I'm going to figure out how high up I want my mountains. I'm just going to pull off my magnets so that they're out of the way for a moment. I think I want them pretty high up. So I'm going to do them about there. The other thing I want is I'm going to put a little bit of water down at the bottom of the mountains, but I think I want a line across here, so I'm just going to get some Post-it notes and decide how big I want my mountains. So maybe just to this point on the mountains here. Try and make a straightish line, the Post-it notes, and that'll give me a base for my mountains. I'm going to make sure my mat is on screen. Looks like it is. Okay, so I'm going to start with Sandy Shore ink for my mountains. And I bought a whole bunch of new blending sponges because I'm actually going to organize my sponges this week. That's what I decided. It's on my task list to do so that I have them in color order. Now, the nice thing about the mat is you can kind of angle it and move it around instead of taping it to my surface. And I think what I'll do is start at the top here. I'll work my way down to my Post-its instead of going the other way. I am winging it a little bit today, so hopefully this all works out. But if not, it's just paper. We can hide errors if I make errors. I was just in the mountains in July before, unfortunately, we had a big forest fire in Jasper, and I was just there about a week before it. And surprise, so here in Canada, I think 31 is 100 degrees or something like that. It was warmer than 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Yep, exactly. And hide it with something else. So I do want the base a little bit darker, and I'm going to make the top a little bit lighter because our sun's going to be hitting it. I will add a little bit of snow. Sorry, I got distracted there. So yes, it was really, really, really warm when we were in Jasper. To the point that we didn't even really stop very long because it was just too hot. But what I noted was it was 37 degrees Celsius. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit off the top of my head. But there was still snow on, like, there'd be a mountain with one snow, and then you look exactly across from it and there'd be no snow on the other mountain. So I'm going to add a bit of snow, but I'll add that with some paste or maybe some of the puffy snow pens at the end there. I'm just going in, after I said I was going to leave the cap, you guys can see that in the corner anyway, because the screen's not pushed in. I'm just going with Marvelous Mocha at the base here, just to darken up my edge. And then I'll go back to Sandy Shores. This is why I have a hard time. Oops. I used my Sandy Shores and my Marvelous Mocha on the same sponge. So I'm going to go switch out another sponge for my Sandy Shores and try and keep them separate. I'm just going to blend at the top here a little bit so that it doesn't look like I have a straight line. And the ink will smooth out as it dries. So, here. Okay. Moment of truth. A nice straight line across. Yeah, it's a little bit, not worried about it. I do want to put some water down here. So I think what I'm going to do for that, so I'm going to grab I'm grabbing the Krafty Scenery 4, I believe this one is. And I'm just going to use this to make a little bit of a water back here. But in order to do that, we either have to mask off our mountains, which might be easier than me trying to figure out that. Yeah, let's do that. So I'm just going to cover up the edge of my mountains here. I did move the stencil a little bit, so hopefully it won't be a problem. I do leave, like, because I don't want a big gap between the brown and the blue. I am covering up the edge of my mountain, but leaving just the tiniest slither of blue there. And it's okay if they blend together, but I just don't want a big gap of white. And I'll go put that there so that those stay in place. And I'm going to grab another sponge, and I am going to use, I need to figure out where I want my water. There I go. If you're worried about you might hit the tree, you can put Post-it note there. I buy the Post-it notes. I have lots, so I don't mind using a whole bunch. And I think I'm going to use Salty Sea on that. I'm just going to come down. The water at our mountains is the coolest blue-green color I've ever seen. You can't even describe the color. I love mountain water. I love swimming in it, even though it's cold. It's very cold. But it's so nice and pretty. Okay. So that should give us a little bit of a water edge. Yeah. I don't want a whole bunch, but I just want there to be like a little bit of a lake going by. This will all be grass down here. So I could probably do that right now. And what you could do is also figure out, sometimes you have to flip it. How am I going to cover that? Well, I just don't want to make a mask with paper and all that. I'm lazy when it comes to that. So, how am I going to do that? I might have to grab one of the other. Let's see. This one probably will be the mask for that. Not really worried about the mountains. I more just want to mask this off. I can. There we go. That's what I want. And again, I'm just leaving a little bit of the edge of the blue out, and I'm going to do the rest in green down here. Put my magnets on. Grab a new sponge. I'm going to start with old olive, or sorry, original olive. Yeah, it's pretty chilly here, so I think we stopped camping at early August. And I don't camp in the mountains. We camp at our lake lot. And I'm the only one who actually sleeps in a tent. Everyone else sleeps in a trailer. So I call it glamping for them because they're older, so they sleep in a camper. We usually go out to our lake lot in the first week of July and like Canada Day weekend. And this year we're gonna go in August because every year we go first July weekend, we always get poured on. So this year we're gonna go in August and it'll be better. No, it was worse. It was worse, unfortunately. It was torrential rain. There was a tornado that wasn't that far away from where we were. And I slept in the tent and forgot to close the one screen door. So when I woke up in the morning, I had quite a bit of water on the ground. Yeah, I'm one of the youngest, so I volunteered to go in the tent. I honestly don't mind being in a tent when it's not pouring. So my label has old olive on there. It's actually original olive. I just haven't changed the label on here. And I'm just going down the whole panel. I got some grass. And what you can do is, if you decide you want a little darker area, you can. I'm going to take another sponge. And I'm going to pull in Fresh Fields. And I'm going to make it a little darker near the bottom. The other thing you could do is, if you don't have all the inks I have, but you want to make it a little darker, is you can throw in a little bit of Sandy Shore down here and then go back over with the green. And that'll darken up your edge, but it won't make it look brown if you cover it over with the green. So I did notice that, I have a little bit of an edge here. So what you could do is, we're probably going to hide it with some trees. They won't notice. Or you could, I should probably move my stencil over a little bit. I'm going to darken up that edge a little bit more. So I'm going to pull in just the brown that I had on my sponge already. Because the contrast on there is not really showing the edge. There you go, Linda. Still camping then. So I'll show you what I mean by just pulling in a little bit of brown. And now I'm going to go back in with Fresh Fields. Like I said, I am winging it today. Normally, I have a project already made up that I can refer back to. But this should work. I think part of the problem is I'm not hitting my edge there. And this will make us have a little bit of a hills in our background. There we go. That's going to look better, I think. There we go. And kind of, they match. I normally would do that a little bit differently, but it's okay. Like I said, this is just the background. Everything's going to be covered up with all our stamping anyway. So now, we got to do the sky. So what we need to do is we need to use our mask and make sure we're covering up the brown that we put down. Best we can. And just try and cover over the brown without overlap, like leaving too much of a gap there. And I want a little bit of a sun peeking behind the mountains here. We'll say this is kind of like sunset that they're having their little fire. Just a little bit. And for that, I think I'm going to use just yummy yellow. Well, this is out of my comfort zone, Carol, so glad to help. I love scene cards, but I do get a little like, oh, don't know how to do it. And I think the best thing is just to jump in and try. I actually got to pull that up, but just a little higher. There we go. We'll see. And if this doesn't work, then you get a circle and die cut it. I think we'll be okay. Yeah, that should work. Just a little sun peeking out. Now, the reason I chose this was we have a mask. So I can make sure I'm masking off my yellow part of my sun. And like I said, it's just building up layers and just saying, okay, what do I want to do next? Do I want to do... Back in the day when I first started making scene cards, I probably would have done all of the sky first and then come down here and go, oh, now I'm going to have to make the sun using gel paste or something. Or, you know, you just kind of have to go, okay, what's the next behind layer? So the mountain should be in front, sun is behind there, behind the sun would be the sky. You just have to kind of think what's next on the list. I hope that makes sense. And for the sky, I decided I'm going to do a combo designer denim and Blue Bay. So I'm going to start with my Blue Bay. It's going to come to the side here. I'm being a little bit heavy-handed. I usually would probably just kind of speed up the process a little bit here. Normally, I probably would go really light layers and do multiple blendings and stuff like that, but today's not one of those days. And if, for whatever reason, my mountains aren't masked up off enough, I will go in and try and ink. Because the brown in the mountains is so dark, we might be able to cheat our way, but I think I'll be okay. I just don't like leaving a huge gap of white if I can help it. Make sure I hit around the sun. This might be where you go, oh, I want to add chubby clouds, then you could put chubby clouds over top of here. But like I said, I stamped out a bunch of clouds, so I'm just going to use those. I'm going to go to my designer denim. And because I already had oh, that was Salty Sea. I'll use the Salty Sea one. And I'm just going to go and make the top a little bit darker, come around the edges a little bit, just to give it a little bit of a contrast. By making the middle a little bit lighter, it will just make things look a little brighter in the middle here. I didn't want it to look like daytime. The first time I made my card for our recap, I did make it look a little bit like, I just noticed it missed some yellow there, so I think what I can do then, sorry, I wanted it to look like it was more like sunset-y, not, and so I probably should have chose different colors than blue, but that's okay. So I did miss a little bit of my edge, so I'm just going to pull in my stencil here. Again, try to cover up the blue, but make sure I have enough of an edge that I still get yellow all the way to the edge. The other thing you can do, you can take a marker that matches the same color and come in and blend that over. All right, so I have a whole bunch of stencils to clean, but I think I'm happy with that. So let's see. Yay! It worked. Like I said, my edges are a little, I probably next time I wouldn't make these match so much. Like I would want, you know what we can do? Actually, I'm going to fix it. Just thought of something. I'll either fix it or make it worse. Is I want another little mountain, another little hill. Do I? You know what? No, we're not going to today. One way you can fix it, because like this one's matching too much like this one, it's like these hills are a little too similar, is you could go over and do like a third mountain over here. Or, sorry, hill. But, you know what? I'm just going to leave it. I'm happy that I have grass. I have a little bit of a lake here. Our mountains, sun, and sky. I'm happy with that. Again, it is a background. Most of our stamps are probably going to cover up a lot of my background anyway. The other thing you can do is to make it more like, I'm going to, because I need a little bit more contrast, is I'm going to come back up here, just going to darken up my edge again. I'm going to go all the way down, side, until I meet the green. I'm just trying to make it a little bit darker on my edges. And then I'm going to take Fresh Fields and probably would have gone with Mossy Meadows next time for my dark green too. But I'm just going to come down here, just make sure it's kind of blended. Yeah, good enough. Didn't really make much of a difference. Okay. So that's our little background. Like I said, I'll add some snow to the mountains, but I'm going to put that to the side. I'm just going to move all this out of the way and we'll get to coloring our images. And then, like I said, I will be bouncing back and forth a little bit. Just as I build my scene up, I'll add things on. Actually, I'm going to just leave this on here. I'll have to clean the ink off of there after. So I did make clouds. If you missed the first part, I stamped out the clouds from You're Stupendous, which is another Netta stamp set, and Yeti or Not. I love looking at stamp sets and going, okay, which ones can I combine so that we can make our scene? Add a few clouds in there. I do like layering my clouds sometimes too. Don't think I need too many because I did make my background a little higher than I think I originally was planning. Yeah, just some little clouds in the sky. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I like to do odds. I'll put our little fire down here. The girl's gonna be here, and our tents and trees will be in the background. So Put our tree back here on this layer. Kind of near the water, can cover the water edge there where, like I said, if you make mistakes on the background, some of it's going to be covered up anyway. I'm going to put a little tree back there too. If you like Bob Ross, a little tree, a little fluffy cloud. Yeah, maybe a tree up here. Because these trees are smaller, I kind of like them in the background more. Maybe I'll just move her over a bit. And the nice thing about stamping out your images beforehand is you can kind of play around with your scene a little bit before and kind of figure out where you want everything. I'll be popping her up so that she's in the foreground a bit more. So these trees, I'm probably going to put one over here too. If you are sending your card in the mail and you're worried about it being on the edge, you may not want to do that there. But I'm okay if things hang off the edge a little bit, and I can always make my card a little bit bigger too. But I get that if you're sending in the mail, you don't necessarily want edges. Might move my tent down a little bit. There we go. So now I have my scene all laid out, I can start pulling my mat in. I use a sticky mat from Tim Holtz just to stick down my images. I'm just going to do the clouds first. I'm just doing a light layer on the clouds. I'm going to zoom in and angle my camera so you guys can see how I'm coloring things. Okay, so bear with me for a second. Okay. So let's zoom in first. I need to make a remote for us to zoom in. Oh, don't do that. Zoom in, zoom out. Because this is the hardest part for us showing you guys videos, is trying to zoom in on, there we go. Okay, I'm going to angle my camera. Sorry, let's swim a little bit. And I'm going to angle my mat, but I want to make sure that I'm getting it all in, so... that down. Okay, zoom out a little bit. Let's be there. Sorry, I know it's kind of like, ooh. There we go. Okay, and like I said, I'll angle my mat a little bit so you guys, I'm left-handed, so hopefully you guys can see what I'm doing. So starting with the clouds, I want them to be really soft. I'm just going to do quick layers on there. I don't want it to take too long. You could just leave them like this too. I did stamp them in the Blue Bay. I'll just move my mat down a little bit for you guys. And I try and keep my marker in the corner, but as long as it's not giving too much of a shadow here. So I chose BG11 for my darkest. That is going to be in the way a little bit, but I want to make sure you guys can see what color I'm using. And I'm just going to come to just the bottom edge of my cloud and over. This cloud's upside down in my head. Doesn't really matter, it's a cloud, it could go any direction. See that cloud still? There's a little bit of delay on the camera, so just give me a second, or on the computer, just make sure I was still in frame. I mean, it's all the same for each cloud, but the other thing, you have like a little edge here too that I'll add a little bit of ink to. Just following Netta's lines that she left on the stamps. Usually I have a better mat than this for sticking down my images. I threw this one out and went, oh, I ran out of my sticky grids, so I have to go buy some new ones. So it's a little bit wobbly. I'm taking my BG's 000 and I'm just blending out my edges. So I just come in and I'm just streaking up from where my BG11 is, but not going all the way unless you want the clouds to look blue. I'm just adding just a little bit of dimension in there. Giving us no lines means that you can still see the top of the clouds, but I can keep them white. Although, like I said, if it was me camping, they'd be dark black because I'm always getting rained on. We never seem to have campfires. If we do, it's like, let's do it quickly because we know it's going to be a storm. Cap is loose on that one. Okay. And you could take Color's blender and blend out more. I'm happy with those. So I'm just going to go put them back where they were on my little scene. I'll probably rearrange some of that after. That's all my blues. So I'm just going to put those away for now until I need them for the girl. I'll do the trees next. And I'm just going to make them pretty simple because they're just background elements. And I went for a 3 blend for the tree pine. I went with yellow greens to kind of match the yellow greens I used down on below. You could, the original olive has quite a bit of yellow green in it. More of a, like an olive color. So you may want to use like the YG95, but I'm just going to go with this one. So YG23, and I'm just going to basically, like hair, come up from the bottom of each section. And this is our latest color, so I'll extend up higher after. But I'm just making streaks. You can kind of see how I'm doing that, yeah. Just making sure you guys can see what I was doing. And the secret with no lines, besides using a very light ink, is... Oh, is he going as a football for Halloween? Hi, Carrie. Sorry. My brain. Gotta focus. So, the one thing with no lines is you're basically hiding. If you make a mistake, you can hide it, which is nice. But you're adding your own lines in. So that might seem a little intimidating, but if you decided you're like, you know what, I didn't like how this one looked out, you can change it. You could decide that you're like, nope, I want this to look a little different than how the artist drew it. I don't mind making it look like how Netta drew it because it's such a cute little tree. And I'm just taking my medium color and extending up. Like I said, leaving little gaps, kind of like how we do with hair. And I'm just making it streaky. And that'll make us look like we have little branches going on. And then I'm taking G29. And in this case, I went lightest to darkest just so that I can figure out where I want my lines. The next tree, I'll probably just go dark to light. Just my way of making sure I'm mapping out where I want things before I start adding the darkest color in. And then I'll go back with my medium color, which is the YG17. Extend that out more. I'm just kind of skipping little bits here and there. Try not to make every stroke the same length. Yeah, Netta has awesome stamps. I love all our designers. I do like that Netta and Sabrina does it a lot too, so that they add accessory stamps in there. So you can really build up your scene. And I like combining stamp sets together so that we can go, oh, okay, I want to make a scene like I did with the ghosts. I can. And I can use clouds if I want. There's little flowers. Like, we have so much options to make our scenes whatever way we want. They got it on Facebook Marketplace. Daddy's really into football, but I don't think it will fit him by Halloween. Oh, he's probably growing so fast. So, for the little stump here, I'm just going to use 23 and 25. It's such a small stump that I'm not going to get too advanced with it. It's going to come up. There. Yes, I do like using them for the inside cards too. And I'm just going to come, and I'm basically making the bottom half dark, and I kind of make the one side a little darker than the other two. Just how I color, it's just kind of like one of my styles, basically. They're very close in color, so you probably won't even notice the difference between the two. You can always add a second darker color if you wanted. I did come to the top of the tree and add a little bit of green, but I left a little gap of white here. If you don't like that, you could color it all in. I'll leave it. I like it. So now I'm going to go, now I know how I want to color my trees, I'm just going to start with my darkest on the next one. And I'm going to come and draw in those little streaks. Like I said, you can see I'm adding little gaps. Everything's little today, apparently, in my head. Then I go to my YG17. You could color all the trees at the same time and mass produce it, but I'll just go one at a time. If you didn't want all your trees looking the same, you could always color them in different shades of green. Like I said, if you wanted to leave the top white because you wanted to look like snow, you probably could take one of your lightest like grays and just add just a little bit on the top. Just gonna come down. And it's faster by going darkest to light for me, but again, I like to map out first and then come in. And that one actually needs a little bit more of this color because I like the other tree better. I'll just blend out a little bit more my streaks. I use Nina because it holds a lot of layers, so I probably, when I'm coloring, usually, if it's not going to take me, you know, forever, I'll usually do at least 2 to 3 layers of each color and blend. Today, because I'm teaching and I don't want you guys having to be here all day, I usually just do, these trees are small, I'll probably just do 2 quick layers and get it done. Oops, I forgot to leave the lid. That was E23. I'm going to add a little bit dark around the bottom here and come up almost like a L shape. That was E25. Back to E23. So, some of you glamp. Is there anyone who's like, I won't even sleep in a trailer if you went camping? Oops, grabbed the wrong one. Don't get me wrong, I like hotels. I do like the comfort of a bed and being inside and not getting rained on and stuff like that. But it is kind of nice being in a tent, listening to the outside world. The tent I have, you can kind of see the stars out of, which is nice too. And it's also nice just to unwind. I sometimes bring my coloring out there, although I'm glad I didn't that weekend in August because everything would have been soaked. I'm just extending up with the YG17. Yeah, fair enough. Do you guys have lakes over where you are, Kim? I'm sure you do. Don't know much about your area. Like I said, the only time I've been over there was for the retreat that we had that 1 year. That was the first time I'd been in Ontario. I think that was the first time. Well, no, I was in Florida before that. So say, I think that's the first time I've been to that side of the continent, but the country. E23. Yeah. My mom won't camp ever again. There's 1 year where we had a reunion, a family reunion. My dad decided that he could keep up with the 20-year-olds doing the drinking games. Got himself a little too drunk and snoring away in the trailer. We had a big storm. My mom ended up taking me and my brother and sleeping in the van. And she's like, your dad's on his own because I can't wake him up. And she's like, I hope this isn't going to turn into a tornado. I don't know what we're going to do then. He didn't even notice. He woke up, he was like, I had a really good sleep. I'm like, oh, really? Okay. Did you notice the storm? He's like, there was a storm? So, I think later in the day he was feeling it, though. Because he wasn't that young, but he thought he could keep up with them. We also used to camp a lot at the dinosaur park that's in Alberta here. In Brooks, because my dad and my brother loved dinosaurs. So we did camp a lot near there. And there's a big electrical storm, and again, my dad was drinking with his cousins and using umbrellas in a big electrical storm. And so my mom is not the biggest fan of sleeping out in the elements. Like, you can do it, I'm not going to do it. Alright, so because I went double on these two look a little darker than this one, the first one I did. I'm going to just add just a tiny little bit. Oh, okay. That's not that far. That's about as far as our lake lot is. Just going to add a little bit more of the pine on this one. Just to darken up my edge a little bit. Just to make them match a little bit more. But as you see, by adding streaks, you almost have the look of the pine needles in it. Yeah. They don't have to all look alike. This one actually has better contrast on my computer screen. But in real life, actually, now I'm looking at it going, this one needs a little bit more of this one too. I'm going to put the medium on there. I'm just not going to go over with the lightest because I actually like the contrast on there. Like I said, they're going to go in the background anyway, so if you're not happy with them, it's fine. So we got our 3 little trees. And do the tent, and then I'll do the girl and the fire. How are we for time? Almost an hour. Yeah, that's what I thought it would take me a little longer today. Not saying. It takes me, when I'm making cards to show you guys for the release, sometimes it can take me all day. Depends what I'm doing. I think for the tent, I want to do it in a like reddish brown color. So I'm going to take my EO9, EO7. I don't know if this is the color listed on there. I'm going to go with YR24, YR21. And that'll give me kind of like a neutrally, like almost a burnt orange color. So again, mapping out with my marker. I moved my, sorry, I'm just going to move this over so you can see where the marker's still, yep, okay. I'm having a hard time because it's leaving a shadow over my stuff. So the tent I did, thank you, Kim. The tent I did do in Precious Pink, so it's very light. Netta also leaves lots of lines for us, which is nice. So she left a little gap, you can see here, between the bottom and this has a little bit of a line there. So I'm actually going to leave that right now, and I'm just going to come above this line. And I'm just going to add, again, I like my little L shapes, that's how I describe it. And blend it. This side also has the same thing. We will come in and color this line after, but I'm just going to do this to map out that's where I want my darkest. The window here would have a shadow under it. So we had a lot of that under there. And this bottom will have, and the side here will be darker. And then in this case, because this is the back of my tent, I am going to add a little bit of dark up here and do almost like a backwards L shape. You can add a little bit around the circle here. We're going to leave that open, and I'm going to just add a little bit behind here too. It'll make more sense, but again. Oh, okay. Nice and close. You must go camping lots then. So I just mapped out with my lightest colors so I know where I want to keep my darkest. And so I'm going to jump right to my darkest color, which is my E09. And I'm just going over exactly where I just drew my lines. So coming to the side of the tent, on the inside, and over. And I'm just going to add just a little bit up from there. Just kind of covering over exactly what I did with the YR21. And all the way up there. So your darkest is going to probably be your edges so that you can see the shapes surrounding it. So you may want to come all the way around. If that's scary to you, you can always add in with a pen after the shapes. I'm not super careful about it or anything like that. I just want to make sure I'm kind of following the lines that were set out by the artist. I hope that makes sense. Ugh. It's hard to explain some things still. I'm getting better at it, but I still find it sometimes hard to explain what I'm doing. So now everything to the right of the line that I created, it will be colored. So I'm going to start with my E07 and just start blending out, just like we would if we had lines, right? So you're just extending your line up and over. E07 and E09 are very close in color, so you won't notice that much difference with this one, but you will once you start getting to the lighter colors. Then, like I said, it's just playing with how much you want to add. Because this is the side of the tent, kind of away from the sun, I'm going to add a lot more. Then underneath our window, around our window, above our window. And this time I'm going to add the lines there too. Now, it's a big jump from our E07 to our YR24. Oh, I have to work on that, Kim. And I'm just going to extend out with the YR24. If the colors aren't going to blend, you can always do the cap to cap technique. Sometimes you might need to blend out more than once too, though. I think this angle's good for you guys to see what I'm actually doing. There is, like I said, a big leap from your YR24 from your E07. So you're just trying to leave a little bit of a gap for the lightest color. So instead of having lines with the black marker, you're basically making your own lines. But Netta's good about leaving, like I said, little indicators of where she would probably color her images. Make sure you hit the back of the tent here. going to go to wire 21 and I'm going to color over everything. So I'm going to go underneath the edge there and come up the side. We may have to add a little bit more on that. Things aren't blending 100%, so like I said, sometimes it takes more than one layer though. Or I may have to like go, okay, I need to add in another color because it's just not going, contrast between the two aren't perfect. I'm just blending, blend, blend, blend. So I definitely have to go over it again. And I'll probably add a lot more EO7 this time. I might skip the EO9 for now and just go to the EO7. And again, from the edge here, we're going to go like this. I'm going to extend this out more. And we're going to come up to almost a point at the top here. Just making triangles, basically. That's what I usually say is in, where's my triangle? This edge, I'm going to come over and up a little bit too, because I just want that to have an angle. And this top, I was going to leave lighter, but I think I'm going to come all the way up. So you can just kind of keep playing with it till you like what you see. You may go, oh, okay, I need to add a lot more of a color. But I think it's probably better to do more than one layer until you like it. Make sure I'm leaving a little gap between the for the lightest color. And I'm actually going to take my YR24 and come up all the way up that edge. I don't want to do EO9 or EO7 because then we're going to lose our edge there. You won't necessarily see it. So. And if I lose my edge, I can always come in with my darkest again and add it in. Also looks like a hot mess sometimes until you blend it out. Or you go, oops, okay, I didn't like that. You could always come in with a dark color and blend over what you did. But now I'm just taking my lightest color and blending everything in. I'm not sure about this combo, but it's okay. If I really hate it, I'll just come in with a darker color and extend more of my orange out. It's not too bad. Probably would pick different colors next time. All right, so this window I am going to do my medium lightest color. So YR24, I'm just going to add that in. And then I'm going to add a little edge there too. You know what? I think in this case, I'm going to come back in with my EO7 and extend this up and over more and extend that down, over. And again, like I said, sometimes I have to just kind of go back and forth until I like it. That's why I like the Nina is I can add lots of layers. I'll make that. I think I'm going to do that in YR21. Contrast between this and this. And I definitely need to come back in with the dark. Okay. So the kind of last step is, if I'm not liking what I'm seeing, is I'm coming in with my dark again. And this time I'm going to actually extend that out just a little bit on the bottom there. Just because I was losing that edge. Extend that out. Extend that out. I would make a note for next time going, okay, I think I need to use a different color combo for the tint. I chose this because it was going to match my flyer. But sometimes you have to go through the ugly. Oh, thanks, Linda. Sometimes you have to go through the ugly to make the pretty. I just keep playing with it until I like it. And if it doesn't work, I'm going to restamp it. But I'm not, like, I want to make sure that I'm trying my best to try it first. I try not to redo anything. I try to just make it work. I just need better contrast up here. That might help. Over on the side. I'm starting to like it better. And sometimes, because this side's away from the sun, you can just go over your lightest over here too. That might help out. And oops, sorry, that's my wire 21. Forgot to put it in. Used to just holding my marker lids. Now it doesn't help that my computer screen makes things look different than what it does look like in real life too. So sometimes I'll look at the computer screen and go, oh, but that's not necessarily, when I rewatch the video, that's not necessarily what I see, so. Now, if it's looking kind of muddy, and I think it is, the one thing you can also do is take one of your browns, and I'm going to use this for my edge. So I'm just kind of almost drawing in the lines that are there. And that'll help bring back in the detail too. It's my secret powers, just going in and drawing your lines back in. There, that makes me happier. This little edge here, I'm gonna just go across. There we go. Good enough. And sometimes you also just have to go, good enough, move on. Kind of a strange color for tint, but it's a background element too. So, because I have my oranges out, I'm gonna work on the fire. And I'm going to go ombre, so I'm going to have the tops be lighter, the bottoms be darker, and I'll leave this middle section first, and we'll do that after I color around it and then come in and do that. As when I tried to do it all together, I found that I forgot to leave the lightest, so I'm going to go in with our wire 21 again, and this is my lightest, actually I have Y38 as well if needed. I'm just coming at the top of the flames and working my way down. Okay. And then I'm going to take my E39 again that I used on the tent. And I am just going to come down to the bottom here. It's my darkest color, so I'm just going to go up. And I'm just drawing in little streaks. But again, I'm not going in the middle where there's that extra flame. And leave that, we'll color that last. You can go to E09, but I think I'm going to skip E09, and I'm just going to go to E07. I'm going to come around the flames, come up. I'm going to start. Make sure that we're getting around this flame a little bit too, so that that has some contrast. Go to wire 24. And then I'm extending all the way up and into the flames that we left here. I might have to come back up here with a darker color too. And then I'll take my lightest color again and blend down. This one will definitely need 2 layers. But I like how it's looking so far. So I skip over my darkest unless I think I need it. And I'm just going to go to my E07. Work my way up. And I'm just, like I said, just like hair, kind of adding streaks. And actually I'm going to come up from the middle section here too. Just so that I have some contrast between the two. YR24. YR21. Now, middle section, I'm going to do the YR24, or YR21. I'm not going to go in with the E39, I'm just going to add a little bit EO7, just adding little streaks up from the middle section again. YR24. And then back to YR21. And then you look at it and assess. So I feel like I do need to go back in with my darkest, which is the E39. And I'm just coming around the middle section on the outside and just adding a little bit of detail in there, little streaks. You guys can see what I'm doing. I'll move my hand. And that's just going to make the middle section pop out a little bit more because it's like a cast shadow. I'm not going to go in the middle there. I want to leave that really light. So leaving that, going back to EO7. And I'm just going to go from the darkest and I'm going to streak up just a little bit. Basically meaning where I already did that. So I need a little bit more streaking. Top here. Now, I went with these because they're a little bit more of a, like I said, a burnt umber-y color. You definitely can make your fire more orange or more yellow than I'm doing. I'm going more neutral on this. Because I just thought, oh, if it's kind of sunset, I didn't want it to be too bright. But we are going to add gel pen and that'll help make the embers look like they're coming from the fire. Okay, I'm happy with that. Oh, thank you, Danielle. I didn't even see you sneak in. And I'm going to take my E25, and since I have my E39 out, I'll pull that. I'm hoping they're matching what I wrote down for the oh, I forgot E99. Oh, well. I'm going to leave it. I don't want to add another color into the fire. We'll just, since we already made our fire, I'll just leave it. Taking my, sorry, E23. And I'm just drawing in from the flames. I'm not the best at logs. Like I said, logs and stumps kind of stump me. Ha ha ha. No. As I say, no pun intended, but yeah, pun intended. But Netta does leave little lines here, so you can just kind of follow them. You can add more detail in because you're doing no lines. If you really are really talented at adding lots of streaks in there to make it look more woodsy, you could. Now I'm jumping to my darkest color, and I'm just going over what I did. Just extending that out. There's a little like knot here on each one. We all have our favorite things to color. Wood is not one of mine. You need to practice more. You could also just color it, you know, solid color, and it's fine. I think it's more like the fire is more detailed than your wood. That'd be okay. And I'm just, like I said, just extending out more. Come across. Beating up, and I'll color over everything with the E23. One thing you could do too is you could leave a little bit of space, and you could always add a little bit of like glowing ember on top of here by adding a little bit of the orange into the bottom there, but I didn't leave enough room for that today. Now I am grabbing a white gel pen. I like my jelly rolls. I'm probably my 10, not my 8. And I have a gold gel pen. I think this one works. Yeah. If you have stickles, you can put stickles on your fire. You can, you know, you just want, I feel like this adds just a little bit of magic to it. So what I do now is I'm going to take my white gel pen and I'm just adding little dots. And I'm just going from the middle, just adding little dots. And the inside you could just do little dots too if you want, little streaks. Should come down where it's darker here too. So that was my Jelly Roll 10 in white. And then the gold just adds just that little touch of sparkle. I don't even care if I go over the white accidentally with it. Definitely like it over the gel pen at the bottom here. I'm not going to go in the middle just because I think that's enough. But that just adds a little bit of embers. Nice. Nice pun, Kim. Alright, so that's my fire. It matches my tint, which is kind of nice. I'm bringing in my colors I've been using. And we just have to color the girl and put our card together. You missed the first half. I made a scene. It's okay. I'm being a little hard on myself. But considering I just kind of went off the fly, I'm happy with it. So for our girl, she's going to take a little bit of time to color. So if people don't have time to watch me, I understand. But what maybe I'll do is, it's 10:18 now. I should write that down on a post-it note. Is because I think a lot of people want to see how I color skin and how I color her in no lines. So I'm just going to make a note at 10:18, which is, I guess I need more how long my video's been. Doesn't tell me right now. Well, we started at 9, so it's an hour 19 in is when I'll put a timestamp on my video. Say that's when I start coloring the girl. My color combo for skin today, I'm going for like a little bit of more of a suntan look. Just because she's camping. And she's not wearing tons of layers like I do. So I wanted her to look a little suntanned. And how I do that is, I'll show you the markers I'm using. It's a go-to for my skin color, but then I add it, and instead of E04, I add E13. So I'm doing E000. Instead of E00, I go with E01 to add a little bit of a pink tone into my combo. E11 and E13. So pretty simple one. And I angle her, and like I said, I'll try and keep the lid at the top here. And what I do, just like I'm sure most of us do, I start with my lightest. Put my cap at the top there. Is it in frame? Just waiting for my computer to catch up here. No. Okay. So let's move over a bit. Come on, computer, catch up. There we go. And the sun is in the middle. I'm going to do my angle coming at this direction. So this part will be lighter than this part. Right now I'm just coating the skin, leaving her eye area. It's okay if you accidentally go in it, but just coming in, adding a layer so that my skin blends nicely. Come around the eye. And this does not have to be perfect because I am just adding a coat down. I'll do her ears after, because I do find that sometimes it's dry by then. Then sometimes I'll go with E11 if I'm trying to decide where I want to map in my color. But to save us some time, I'm just going to go in with my darkest, which is E13. Now, her hair definitely would be casting a shadow, so you want a pretty thick shadow. This is a pretty big face on these characters, so I'm just adding quite a bit of E13 in there. And I'm just coming around the hair, come down the chin area and around. But then I'm going to add little streaks from here, just to add a little bit of shaping. This side, I'm going to add just a tiniest little gap in between the E13 and the lightest color. We'll fix that after. And her nose, I'm just adding a little U shape. The other thing I'll do is once I blend out my skin, I'll come in and add some shading around her eyes. But that's kind of like last step. It's kind of like I'm basically coloring and then I add my lines in. So now I'm taking my E11 and blending that out. And skin, I definitely do more than one layer for sure. Or it looks silly. And I'm just coming above the nose with that. Just gonna have a little bun nose. And actually, I'm gonna pull out my E11 a little bit more on this side. Just streaking it over. Then I'm gonna take my E01. So it's exactly the same as if you had, the black lines there. It's just, instead, you're coloring around your lines. And you're going to add them in with your markers or gel pen. And this is going to seem really dark at first. But once it blends out and you add your lines in, it's gonna smooth out. And it won't look so dark. So now I'm taking my E000, blending that line back there, coming in to the face. That looks a little silly, so I'll probably just come in with my darkest. I was just trying something there. I'm just blending over everything but the eyes. I'm coming around the eyes though, and then pulling up my marker. And I kind of go back and forth. I did just refill my E000, so it's got a lot of blending solution in it. Okay, so I don't like this edge, so I'm going to come in and we're just going to make it really thick on this side to make up for the fact that I did that. But this edge, because it's my darker side, I'm going to have to add more. So I'll just come in and I just streak out. We're almost thinking of it as a spear that you're coloring both sides on. And not really worrying about the lines right now. I'm just trying to blend out to make it look nice. And then with my E11, I'll come under the chin. I don't like doing the E13 there because I think it's a little dark. I hope it makes sense on that. Again, if you're not sure about something, please say, Patty, can you explain that a little differently? I'm totally good with that. Your colors are going to go over top of your lines, but I can still see them. Sometimes if you're using a darker color, you might not see them again, is you can pull in your stamp set and just have a quick look at where the lines are supposed to be. And that's a little bit more difficult. This is pretty pale color, so I can see my lines under it still. And around the eyes. And now I'm blending with my E000 again for everything. Totally forgot to write blush color down on my chart. But that just blends everything out kind of smoothly. Do I have something I can use for blush? No, so I'll make a note on there that I missed my blush color. I typically, for blush, because my skin tone's a little darker on here, I'm going to use R32. And I'm just going to come at the apples as the cheeks and blend that out. That's going to look really dark, but once you add your other colors, you won't notice it looking as dark. Then I go to my that was R32. 32? Yes. Then I'm going to take my E01 and blend that out. I'm just extending it out and over. Out and over. And then our lightest will help blend that out so it's not such a harsh line. And again, I just go over the whole top of it. Out and over. If you felt like you lost your blush, you could go back in again, but I'm happy with that. Okay, so we're going to have to let that dry a little bit, and then I'll add my lines in. So I'm going to start with the ears first, just to give that some time to dry, or my marker's going to bleed a little bit. I do get a little bit of bleeding sometimes when I'm doing my no lines, because I'm being impatient, not letting areas dry. So I'm just going over, I'm doing the ears basically the same as I did with the skin. Just coming over there. There's a little fingers here I can just do right now too. It shouldn't dry by the time I'm done the ears. I probably could do this arm. But it's just like I did with the face. I'm just coming in, adding in a little layer of the E000, and going into my darkest and adding my where I want my shadows. So the inside of the ear, I'm adding a little C shape. You can add a little bit underneath the ear just to make sure it looks round. A little arm here, I'll just add like a little tiny L shape there. Fingers, I like to add in just so that you can still see them. And then I make a little, sorry, my hand's in the way. Just waiting for the computer to catch up here. And a little wrist there. Each finger is really small here, so if you don't feel comfortable, you don't have to do this, but I'm just going to add just the tips of her fingers. Just coming up really lightly with my pen so that you can see the fingers. Sorry, I'm still trying to figure out my angles for these things so that you guys can see what I'm doing better. No worries, Kim. I'm all good. No, it's a Sunday. Like I said, I know people are busy. So if you need to go, I understand. So I'm just going over those lines just like we did before. Just extending that out. And this is with my E11. I'm not the best with fingers. As long as I can see them, I think they're all good. I don't get too worried about them. They're such small areas. It's like, it's okay. And then I'm going to take my E01 and start coming on the top of the ear here too. Down in the fingers. And I know I mentioned it, but the reason why I use E01 instead of E11, or sorry, E02, sorry, words, hard. I use E01 instead of E00, is my skin tone, personally, is very, very reddish. Like, I have a lot of red tone in my skin. So I think by adding E01, when I want it to look kind of like me, my skin tone that I'm used to, I think it matches pretty well. Like I said though, E00 would work too. Especially if you don't have all the colors in the book like I do. I think I have every marker now. But I've been collecting them for over a decade, so. Alright. So, what you could do to test to see if the face is dry enough is you can kind of dab your finger across and see if it's still cold. Is slightly. I think I'll chance it, and hopefully it won't bleed too much. I'm going to take my E13. Now, this is where you might want to use a gel pen if you're not good with fine lines. And I'm just going to come around her eye on the top here. And over. And that's almost giving her a little bit of an eyelash line. And I think because I'm doing a little bit of a red head on her, I'm going to do her eyes in the brown too. So I'm just going to add this in. Now this is kind of a reddish brown, so you may want to use a different color for the eyes, but I think it looks okay. And I try and leave the pupil with the white. Doesn't always happen. If it doesn't, I just grab a gel pen. Now she needs a little bit underneath her eye too, so I'm just going to extend my outline out and out. But I left white there so that you can still see that she's got her eyes. And I think even just the one color is just enough to make it look cute. Her smile, I'll use the same gel pen to draw, or sorry, the same marker just to draw in her smile, and I can see it underneath my layers there. So just add that in with the same color. I'll normally use E04 or whatever my darkest color is in my skin. I feel like her ears are cute, but I just want a little bit more of a line in them. So you can see that. Add that in. Her nose, you can go back in if you feel like you're missing it, and just add a little line underneath. And that's her skin. Well, thank you, Danielle. All right, hair. So basically, with the no lines, you're in charge of making your own lines. So that's why I like it, is if I make a mistake or, you know, I decided I wanted to change something up, I can. But I also just like that the blend is nice and smooth and I don't have a black line that's showing on there. It's just personal preference. So for the hair, I have to remember what I decided on, and it was E13, E99. I'm just going to bring up my list. Sorry, just one moment here. Next month we have a new release, and it's going to be so cute. That's all I can share with you. Where's my... Oh, maybe if I go in the event. There we go. What colors did I decide on for the hair? I know it was an auburn color. Oh, my mouth is getting dry. Oops. Hair, E13, E99, E39, E59, that's right. Okay. So again, you're just mapping out your colors. So I think my E13 will be the one I'll use to map out my color in my hair. And what I do with hair is kind of look at where our artist has decided to put some extra lines. And that's where we'll have our darkest color. So from the scalp, I'm going to come down and meet up with this line that's here. And then I'm just drawing little streaks in to indicate that Netta had put like a little section there. This little section is coming down like this. Oops, got a little messy there, but that's okay. That's why you do it with your lightest color first. And I'm just leaving little streaks. I'm used to moving my sheet around a whole bunch when I'm doing hair, so let me angle myself instead of moving it too much. And normally what I'll do is I'll flip my paper around and put some streaks from this section. And I just come up and around the back of the hair there. And come down her pigtails. Streak it from the ears. Okay. Like I said, oh sorry, my hand's in the way again. That maps out my colors. I'll move my hand out of the way. So it's just mapping out my sections. So I know this section, there's a section here. This one's behind that section. So it'll be a lot darker than this section. Up here, here, here. It's actually pretty easy hair once you map it out. And then again, I go to my darkest, which I believe will be my E59. And I'm just going to follow what I just did. So I know that this section behind here is going to be darker so that this is lighter. So I'm just coming around. I added quite a bit there. Maybe this section's going to be in front too, so I'll just do that dark. And some streaks from there. Like I said, I usually move my page around instead of my hand, so, but just going, and by adding my darkest, I know where I want each section. I'm not just drawing a line and coming in and added streaks. Then I go to my second darkest, which is my E39, and we'll extend that out. So, like I said, I usually kind of come around first, because I know this section I want pretty light. But I need some contrast between the two, or you're not going to see it very well. Down here, but I'm going to start streaking that up a little bit from that section. No, it's been a long one. I thought it might be today. But I wanted it, because people have been asking, how do you do no lines? I wanted to show you how I do it. So I'm just going to come in with my E30, E99. And I'm leaving gaps for my white, or for my next color. But starting to meet up with the dark. And before you go, you make it look easier than how I do it. We all have our levels, right? I see other people's hair and I think, oh, they did such a good job. And I've had a lot of practice. Practice, practice, practice. And that's how I do. And sometimes my hair's messy, but she's camping. Her hair's going to be a little messy. This is my lightest, my E13. I'm just coming up from the bottom. Now she's missing her eyebrows. I need to put eyebrows in. It's bugging me. I'm used to putting eyebrows on everything. Even critters, they get eyebrows. And what I do is, Netta did have lines for eyebrows on there, but I can't see them very well now. So I'm going to have to draw them in. And I'm just drawing little, in a curve, little streaks. I want her eyebrows to be a little bushy today. Now you can, if you don't like the eye color, you think it's a little too light, you can go in with your E99. And just a little bit of a edge on each side. I also usually do add freckles. I'm going to go in with E13 for that. I'm just adding little tiny dots. randomly. I don't want them to be too uniform. Oh, I forgot I need to do her legs too still. So let's do that. Like I said, with the hair, I probably add a second layer. Oh, yeah. Every time I watch that commercial, I think I know those people from somewhere. I'm sure I don't, but they sure look familiar to me. And I'm sure they're not, like, secrets of doing commercials. They probably aren't related. Alright. So, just went with my lightest color on the legs. I'm going to grab me 13. My crabs have eyebrows, so yes, I would say yes, of course they have eyebrows. And then my nephew would look it up, and he'd be like, they don't have eyebrows, you're lying to me. He's very analytical to a fault sometimes. I'm like, you can use your imagination. And I just say, well, my crabs would have eyebrows, so don't know where your crabs are, but mine have eyebrows. And then you just go, oh, auntie, and walk away. Maybe that's why they casted them. I knew people would go, oh, they look familiar to me. Or they've been in a bunch of commercials and that's why we recognize their faces. There. Now our legs are done too. You can add little dots for freckles on her arms. Again, I have lots if you see my arms. So, oh, come on, and move out of the way. Yeah, I'm freckly. So I tend to add freckles if I'm probably not. I'm just going to add it to her face today. But typically I would. And sometimes when they look like chicken pox. I do add a little bit of white underneath my freckles. Don't know why. Just always have. And the eyes, I did lose a little bit of the pupil shape. So I'm just going to go back in with the white. Add that in. If you want, you can come around the dark part of your eyes and add a little bit of white in if you missed that. But that just helps add that in. Just brightens out her eyes a little bit too. Now, I'm just trying to speed along here for you guys. So I know it's been a while. Move those markers out of the way for now. Her shirt, I decided to do in blue-green colors. So I'm going to do BG11, and I'm just going to come around the shirt, around each button. It's okay if I accidentally get in the button because I'll have gel pen over top of it. Her little sleeves, I'll do little L shapes like I did for the tent. Can't even see this one really. There. Then I'm going to go in with my BG57. And the first thing I'll do is I'll go under the buttons just to give it a little shadow. Like I said, it's okay if you go into the buttons if you're going to use a gel pen on it. Little L shape there. She's got a little collar here, so I'm going to add a little bit under the collar. Now this side, because she's facing the sun, would have a little bit of a... it would be a little lighter. But I still want to add a little bit of shape in there. It's going to blend out weird, I think. But I did leave a tiny little gap where my line, my pink line is, and my blue line there. I'll go to my next color, which is BG13, and I'm going to extend that out. And up. Make sure you don't forget that little sleeve over there. And then I'll blend over everything. And like I said, if I get this into the buttons, it's fine. To speed things along, I'm just going to do one layer. I'll probably do 2 layers later. Her little collar up here, I'm just going to do in the BG57. Just do it all in one color just because it's such a small area. There we go. Once that's dry, I'll add in the buttons back in with gel pen. Her pants are khaki colored. I thought E40s would be good for that. So got E40, E42, E44. We also have a map to color in, which I forgot about. Normally I'd probably do that in this color combo, so I'll have to figure out what I'm going to do the map in. Like I said, just planning with my lightest color, which was my E40. Go in my darkest color. She would have a big shadow under her belt here. And around the map. And then I'm going to come to the side here and add another streak in. She would have some shadowing on this leg. And again, I'm just going to do a little L there, but I'm not going to go all the way up. And E42. Extend that up. Extend that over, but trying to leave a little space for the lightest color. Extend that down a little bit, come around the map. Sorry, I know I'm speeding along, but it's just because it's been a long video, so I think you guys can catch the gist of what I'm doing. Now, because it's such a light color, I will do a second layer on that. Like I said, the clothes might need a second layer on the shirt too. We'll see once I add my lines in. I'm just adding a little bit more of this because I think it needs it. And E40. Put that out. If you left this without putting that little tiny triangle in there, you might look like you didn't actually have a line there, so I did add a little bit of it in. I did say I was going to do this for the socks, so I'm just going to add just a little tiny E40. I'm not even going to do much on that because it's such a small area. Got a little gray brown socks, why not? And then her shoes I did decide on the same color as her top. So I'm going to go in with my BG11. And you know what? I'm feeling like the shirt needs a little bit more blending, so I'm going to do it now it's dried a little bit. Add a second layer in. So there's a little ton here for the shoe, and then I'm just going to go in the middle. I'm leaving this gap right now. I'll come in after. Once I know where I want to put my darkest colors. Actually, I should be able to get around the shoelace there. Such a small area that if you colored the whole thing, it's not the end of the world. BG13, and I'm just going to come and do like little L's on either side of the shoe. The ton I will give a little like upside down L's. Back heel should have some of this. Front. Move my hand out of the way so you can see where I put it. Oh, I didn't add that to the top. So you can see, just because once I start blending, it'll be harder to see. You can see where I add my darkest on the shoes there. I'm just going to do the top a little bit more. So I'm just coming back in with my darkest, or my second darkest, and just adding my BG13 in a little bit more. I just felt like it needed a bit more contrast. And that's why I'll tend to do 2 layers, is because then I can say, oh, this actually needed a little bit more. BG57, just add that in too.
And I'm going to come around the shoe tongue, and I'm just basically following where I just put it, the BG13. Go back to my BG13 and blend that out. Sorry, when I'm coloring I get kind of repetitive, but I'm trying to think of what's everyone got for Sunday plans. I'm gonna start working on. I need to do my challenge, my project for this month's challenge, which is circle primary colors back to school. So I have an idea made up for that one. Oh, is my pen in there? Yeah, okay. So going back in with my BG11 and blending that out. So that's my plan after I eat something here. I'm going to work on that, get that done. Need to do some laundry for work. Yeah, I think you and I are in the same boat, Danielle. I have to adjust my whole schedule now because I'm not used to working Monday to Friday. So I got to figure out when I'm going to do things. And it's like the weekends have to be more productive. So I'm just coming in and adding the shoelaces in now with my darkest color. If you wanted, you could always take a different color and do your shoelaces if you're worried about that. Sorting, cleaning, and organizing, yeah. That's got to be a big job for you, Kim. I'm not even bothered with my yard. I've given up on it. It is. Now, I got to decide what I'm going to color the map. Normally, I do the E40s for paper. I think I'm going to, even though I didn't put it on the list, I think I'm going to add E50 in. I'll use that a lot of time for paper, too. So sorry that wasn't on the list of supplies. But I feel like I just need something different than E40 for the paper, for the map. I'm just coming in and following my lines. It's very simple. Not even going to blend. I think that's good enough. I want to keep it light or it's going to not look like paper in her hands. And then her backpack I did in my neutrals, which was my... Actually, no, I was going to do YR09. Let's do YR09, EO7. Sorry if this is different than what I listed. And YR21. Went like a little orange backpack. I think it'll look good contrast with the teal shirt. So I'm just coming in. I'm going to actually just color sleeves, the top. Just trying to speed us along here. So I colored the whole thing in that time. And then EO7, I believe, is going to be, yeah, probably going to be darker than my YR09. And this is where I'm going to add in my lines. So coming up from the base here down. It's such a small area, but I'm still going to try and add a little line to add a little contrast where the backpack straps are. So my new vet is a salsa instructor, which is cool. So she's making us do salsa dancing on Friday. I got about 2 steps in and went, I'm not coordinated enough for this. She's like, you just keep moving. Even if you don't know the steps, just keep moving. I think that's sometimes with us with coloring too. I told her I had to teach a class this weekend too. But mine's sitting down. So I added a little dark in there. So now that her shirt's probably dry, I can add the buttons in. I just got to do her belt and we're almost done. I think for the belt, since I have my E25s out, I'll just do E25. Just like a little leather belt here. I'm leaving the middle because I'll add a little gold to that. It should have a gold buckle. So I'm just going to take my gel pen. There. I feel like my backpack needs just a little bit more blending with the wire 09. Lost my lines a little bit on that. That's okay. Okay. So, if you're worried about any areas, you could go over the skin again, but because I added my detail in there, I can't. So my little shadowing here, because I made that error, it's a little wonky, but I'm happy with it. The hair I probably would go over again, just because it's looking a little streaky, but for the sake of time, I'm just going to leave it. I think she's cute enough. And like I said, my screen always makes things look different, so I don't know if that's actually what you guys see. We're going to pull in our card. I'm almost done. Got all my scene made. I'm going to zoom out again so you guys can see what I'm doing. See if I can do this and angle it back to where it should be. Zoom in, zoom out. There we go. Okay. So now let's just glue in our accessories down and adding some glue dots. And I had the Sweet Petunia gun. I think it helps because I have a bit of arthritis. So I think it does help a little bit for those who maybe are like on the fence on whether they... Thank you, Carol. I appreciate it. I'm going to add my clouds in first so I can figure out where I want to put them all. So I'll put this big one here. A little one. Just come in. And I'll just put this one here. You should always try and put your biggest element down first so that you're not like, oops, I ran out of room. I might actually take a glue dot or pop-up dot and add one of the clouds with a pop-up dot so that they can layer a little bit. Actually, that looks okay. I'm just gonna do that. Oh, I find this really easy to use, Danielle, but I'm not sure if that would help or not. Like I'm barely putting any pressure on it and it's getting glue out, but I'm not sure if that would make things worse for you or not. I'll put my little cloud that I have here, down here. I'll just cut off the edge there once my card's done. Just so it's kind of hanging off, that side's kind of hanging off. Well, I hope that helps. I can put my fire down. And then what I did on my card was I added some more gel pen onto the background to show that the embers were kind of coming out of the fire. So I'll do that. The other thing you could do, which I didn't do this time, is if you were planning it, you could add a little bit of yellow around it so that you have a bit more of a glow. I'm going to pop her up, so she's going to need glue dots. My tent, I'm still not exactly happy with, but I'm going to stick it down anyway. And what's going here? Oh, I need to add a tree first. Just add the tree there. That gap is. The tent you could pop up too, because then that way it's behind the tree. Oops, I put my fire up too high, so this is gonna have to go over here now. Oh darn. I don't think it's gonna come up. Okay, well, this tree is gonna be really behind the tent now. That's okay. Layerings helps. Put this one here. That's why you should probably put everything back to exactly where you had planned it, but that's okay. And I'm just gonna get some glue dots because she's technically my, sorry, don't like that all my trees are, you can't really see them. You know what? That's gonna have to stay. It is what it is. Thanks, Kim. Yeah, I'd pretty thick glue dots to the back of this, or pop dots. I keep calling them glue dots. Foam dots, and hopefully not getting ink on her because I just placed her down on where I had my inking. That's okay. Should be dry by now, I'm assuming. Anyway. Okay. I know they're different colors. Unfortunately, I have a mix of all different colors because you're forgetting what color I bought. So that's... So in a perfect world, I probably should have moved that tree over a bit, but it's too late now because it's stuck down. So she's going to go a little bit like this, and she's just going to have two trees hanging out behind her. So stumps. So all the nice stumps, luckily, I didn't spend a lot of time on since I covered all of them up anyway. Alright, so I'm going to take my gel pen, and I'm just going to add little dots coming out of the fire and coming up. You can make them as tall as you want or as low as you want. Add a little bit of white gel pen too. And that way it looks like it's coming out from the fire. Now, this section's a little bit empty, but I can just put our sentiment here. And see, winging it sometimes helps because now I have a spot for my sentiment. I think I'm just going to use Happy Trails because it's small. And I like sentiments that I can use for multiple occasions. And then if it turns out to be a birthday card later, I can just, in the inside, use one of the bigger sentiments. I usually wait until I know who I'm giving the card for, though. So I'm just pulling in my Misty. Because we used a lot of orangey browns, I think Rich Rust would work really well for my sentiment. Could use Marvelous Mocha, too. Just making sure it's in the corner so that if I have to stamp more than once, I can. I'm running out of room. And my camera is still at a weird angle, sorry. See, I didn't add the s'mores, so to make life more fun, probably wouldn't use. Wishing you a campy birthday could work there, just as a straight line. You make me a happy camper would work too, but I'll just use Happy Trails, I think. Oh yeah. Oh, Danielle. I hope that goes well for you. I'm sure it will. I'm sure you'll feel much better and won't regret it at all. Now, I used a dark ink on this last time and you probably should clean your stamps. I'm really bad for that. I will say that if you are doing no line coloring like I did, you want to make sure that your stamp is clean, because if you get any ink, oh sorry, I gotta move that again. If you get any ink, I can move my camera up too, I think. Nope, okay. You just, I'll finish my sentence in a second here. I'm just gonna move my camera up so you guys can see what I'm doing. thing, if you didn't want to put sentiment on it, you can, you know, put a little piece of grass there, put another tree there, put some flowers, something like that. Anyway, as I say, oh, with your no lines, you want to make sure your stamps are clean perfectly, because these light inks will pick up the color that you used previously on there if you don't clean your stamp set. So I'm going to start with my Rich Rust. If it's not dark enough, I might have to go to Marvelous Mocha. Why I like using my Misty is I can do more than one color. So. Yeah, that's a little light, so I might have to go to Marvelous Mocha, but I'll stamp it more than once and see. I like the reddish color of that to match with some of the orange that I have in my background, but it's a little too light, so I'm just going to take my Marvelous Mocha and go over that. It probably would have been fine just using it as is, but that just darkens up it a little bit. And then you can always go back and try and add a little bit more of your Rich Rust. There, now it's got a little bit of that reddish tone, but it's a little darker. Okay, so the only thing I was going to add was, I had to cut off the clouds on the side, but I'm just going to add a little bit of that snow detail to my mountains. And do I want to do that with white gel pen, or do I want to use the... If I use my snow pen, unfortunately it does have to take some time to actually dry before you can heat set it, but it does look cool because then it's going to add that like popcorny, snowy texture to it. I think for today, just so you guys can see, I'm just going to add a little bit of white gel pen to the top of my mountains here. So I'll leave a little bit of space where the brown, actually because we have the blue sky, I don't have to. I'm just going to come down the side of my mountain and I'm just zigzagging out from there. And as much snow as you want, just a little snow. I'm just going to add a little bit of snow to the mountain tops here. And then add just a little streak down the side. I should leave this one empty because, like I said, when I was in the mountains, there was one mountain that was right beside another mountain. Is this my 8? Oh, that's why it's not coming out nicely. I usually use my 10. There we go. And just adding some streaks of snow. Like I said, if you got some white paste, you could always just add some paste to the top of this. You could add stickles if you have like white stickles of some sort that would actually cover it, but that should be good enough. I'm calling it. Yeah, I don't want too much snow on there. But that's how our mountains are. They usually have like a little tiny skip of snow at the top of the peaks. So there's my card. I'm happy with that. Not so happy with the tent, but you can see that, you can tell that it's a tent still. I just think the colors didn't blend as smoothly, so that's something I might change next time and go, okay, that combo it was really good for the fire, but maybe not so good for my tent color. But it does go, I do have kind of a triangle going on there. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with it overall. And I hope you guys learned some stuff from me. I know I kind of sped along a little bit. I need to learn to slow down, but that was a 2-hour class, which is why I wanted to kind of go quickly. I'll just add that to a card base and then she's ready to go. Might add some glitter here and there, add some sparkle, because I mean, we always need sparkle, right? But I think I'm going to call that. So thank you for joining me, and I appreciate everyone sticking around. And I hope that if you did get the S'more Fun stamp set, that you have some time to play with it and enjoy it. It makes beautiful summer cards. It's also fall. Ooh, good job, Kim. That release went well then. Thanks, everybody, and I'll talk to you later.